One of the worst things that happened to me after my accident was the day they told me I would never be able to walk again. It was horrendous, devastating. If you take risks on site, it might be you next. When you're working up high, it's not worth taking any risks whatsoever, because a couple of seconds later you could be hurtling towards the floor. Just think, is it worth it? What effect is it going to have on your family? Where's the money going to come from? Do you really want your kids to grow up without a father? That's the reality. Don't take risks. It's just not worth it.
It goes without saying that working at heights is a dangerous business and should be taken very seriously. Now and again, we all have to work at heights, up on scaffolds, on platforms, and working up ladders. But have you ever stopped to think whether you really need to be working at heights? A lot of the time you probably don't. You'd be surprised. Have a think about it next time. If you don't really need to, find another way. Scaffolds and tower scaffolds. You'll see them on just about all of the sites. Putting them together is a big job, and an important one as well. You're best to leave it to those who are qualified. Every work area where you work needs to be safe and completely secure, so it's not worth leaving it to chance. If you're working on a scaffold, check there's a scaff tag that states it's safe before you even set foot on it. If there isn't, ask someone why not. Not just for you, but for your mates as well. You might get away without an accident, but what about the bloke after you? Or the bloke after him? Whatever scaffold you're working on, the platform should have the minimum toe board and 2 handrails. Anything less is not good enough. Let your supervisor know about it right away if it isn't up to scratch. Alterations to any part of the scaffold must only be done by someone who is trained and competent to do so. Same goes for tower scaffolds. Accept nothing less than total safety when you're at work. Ladders are something we probably use all the time, but do we really need to? A lot of the time we reach for the ladder to do work we'd be better off doing some other way, or maybe by someone better qualified for the job. There's no point in putting yourself at risk if you don't have to. If you do use a ladder, make sure you know how to use it correctly. Ask yourself a few questions. Have you made it safe to use? Is it long enough for the task? Do you need someone to help you? It's more than likely some of you have worked on MUPs, or mobile elevated working platforms. If you have, or if you're going to, you must be trained and competent to operate them. One thing you can do is make sure you're using your harness according to the manufacturer's recommendations. It's a simple thing to do, but it can make a big difference. As well as looking out for yourself and your mates, you need to make sure everyone on site is safe, especially when you're working up on a MUP, where you could be dropping tools or materials over another work area. Your best bet is to make sure you cordon off a work area before you start. On some sites you might work with a safety net. It's another precaution that's taken as a further level of safety, and any extra protection has got to be a good thing. Again, just keep in mind that the net should only be put together by those who are competent. You always see excavations around the sites. They're part and parcel of the work that goes on around the project. Any excavation should be properly protected with barriers and safety observed when working or moving around them. Excavations are potentially very hazardous, with severe drops and pits containing rebar and other very dangerous materials. Safety harnesses should be a last resort of protection when working at height, but if you do need to wear a harness, Make sure you've been fully trained. You should do a visual inspection every day with a competent person recording all full inspections every 6 months. If there's an emergency and you've fallen, it's estimated you'll have about 10 to 15 minutes before it becomes life-threatening and the harness begins cutting off your blood supply. You need to act fast but safely if you see someone fall. Make sure you know how to effect a successful rescue plan and move quickly. If you don't know what your rescue plan is, ask your supervisor. Your mate's life might depend on it. Make sure you're happy with every part of your harness and where you're going to be fixing it onto your workplace. Know where your clipping on points are. Are they stable and secure? Working at height kills more people each year in the construction industry than any other workplace accident. So remember, your safety is the #1 priority. It's easy to let a few things slip sometimes. Maybe you thought you didn't need that harness. Maybe you should have asked your mate to help you out with that ladder. It's not just your life you're affecting. It's the life of your family, your mates. Don't take the risk.